Welcome to Flash News Now. Here are today's top 12 stories. U.S. plans to slash fighter jets, warships to NATO in Europe, New York Times reports. The reported cutbacks come as European nations race to bolster their defense capacities since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 sparked fears that Moscow could attack a NATO country. France 24's Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi takes a closer look. As alcohol returns to World Cup, Ecuador president tells fans to drink up. The excitement of the World Cup is often synonymous, for some with consuming alcohol, something that was difficult to do at the last tournament after Qatar banned alcohol sales in stadiums. Drinking in moderation is essential, but how much beer exactly will be drunk at this World Cup? Solange Mugan has more on this and how Ecuador's president has just given his nation's football fans a nudge to consume more beer. All of us are migrants, Pope says in Canary Islands as Spain trip wraps up. Pope Leo XIV told migrants at a reception center on the Spanish island of Tenerife on Friday that all of us are migrants. On the final day of a week-long visit to Spain focused on the plight of irregular immigrants. France 24's Sarah Morris has the latest. More time needed for deadly Air India crash inquiry, officials say. A statement said significant progress had been made into investigating the crash which left 260 people dead a year ago. First group of Nigerians returns home after anti-immigration protests in South Africa. This development in world news carries weight beyond its immediate context. The underlying dynamics suggest a shift that stakeholders should watch closely. Experts point to several converging factors that make this particularly noteworthy. The announcement, which came through official channels, has been described as a game-changer by some and business as usual by others. Digging deeper into the details reveals several layers that casual observers might miss. The nuances matter here. Small differences in implementation could lead to very different outcomes. Historical context provides useful perspective. Wrapped in paradox. Most inclusive tournament in terms of countries participating, yet many excluded. The paradox at the heart of the 2026 World Cup matters now because the tournament's global reach is being leveraged to legitimize a North American hosting model that simultaneously narrows access for the very fans, players, and diaspora communities that give football its cultural heft. Visa caps tied to U.S. immigration policy, exorbitant secondary market ticket pricing, and corporate-driven experience packages transform a supposedly universal celebration into a gated spectacle, reinforcing a narrative that the sport belongs to affluent, Western consumers. Not up for debate. Britain bans commentators Hasan Piker and Cenk Uygur. The timing of the ban coincides with a surge in Britain's public good immigration clauses, a legal device that sidesteps the traditional security risk test and gives the Home Office unfettered discretion to exclude dissenting voices. By targeting Piker and Uygur, figures whose online platforms amplify anti-establishment narratives on U.S. politics, the government signals a willingness to weaponize immigration law against ideologically inconvenient foreign media, a move that could chill transatlantic digital commentary and set a precedent for future exclusions of journalists, activists, or academics whose work challenges the status quo. Congo's 1974 World Cup pioneers. The resurgence of the Leopards' forces are reckoning with a moment that remains the only pre-1990 World Cup appearance by a sub-Saharan nation. A milestone that shaped African football's claim to global relevance yet was quickly eclipsed by political turmoil and chronic underinvestment in the DRC's sporting infrastructure. By foregrounding the surviving members of the 1974 squad and the journalists who chronicled their odyssey, the feature reframes the current qualification bid not as nostalgic nostalgia but as a litmus test for whether the structural deficiencies that once consigned Zaire to a one-off cameo have been remedied. Ukraine reclaims territory as it doubles attacks on Russian logistics. Ukraine says its lockdown strategy is working as it disrupts Russian supply lines. Indonesian students protest government policies amid economic strain. Scuffles broke out as some demonstrators attempted to break through the police lines and metal barricades. David Hockney, iconic British artist, dies at 88. David Hockney, a treasured British artist whose paintings of shimmering pools and colorful iPad drawings became icons of contemporary art, died on Friday aged 88. France 24 takes a look back at the life and career of one of the giants of the art world. Video: AI models predict World Cup results. The intrigue of AI-driven sports forecasts has surged because the 2026 World Cup will be the first tournament staged across 3 nations, Canada, Mexico, and the United States, introducing unprecedented logistical variables, time zone spreads, climate differentials, and cross-border travel that traditional statistical models have never had to accommodate. By pitting 4 distinct architectures, a transformer fine-tuned on historic match data, a graph network that ingests player-level passing networks, a reinforcement learning agent that simulates tournament paths, and a hybrid LLM that blends news sentiment with betting odds, analysts can gauge how quickly machine learning adapts to novel, multi-regional contexts. That was your Flash News Now bulletin. Subscribe for more.